Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the One Divine Challenge. I'm your host, Extra Mayo, and today's build showcases the Ice Shot Deadeye. Without further ado, let's get started. Before we purchase our gear, let's quickly cover 3 significant changes in this patch that make this budget build viable. First, the introduction of Ice Shot as a vol skill drastically improves the single target damage by enabling us to summon a squad of Mirage sharpshooters for a short duration. Second, changes to the skill tree now allow us to take notables that give us up to 2 additional arrows. This means we don't have to run additional arrows in our setup anymore with a support gem, and allows us instead to go for another damage support. And last but not least, the change to Vengeance Cascade. A slight change was made to this amulet anoint, but it's resulted in basically double damage for any projectile attack build. I highly suggest playing this before the league ends because it's super fun and is 100% getting nerfed next patch. Our build today will be showcasing just how powerful a bow build can be with under 1 divine invested. We'll be leaning heavily on Vengeance Cascade, which takes up a majority of the budget, but is well worth the price. We'll be using a single 6-link setup for our Vault Ice Shot, and utilize a 4-link Ballista Totem to augment our single target damage. This build can be flexibly geared, so feel free to make modifications to your liking. Note, this build will require arrows to pierce at least once to maximize the benefits from Vengeance Cascade, so I'm achieving that through the unique Quiver Drill Neck. This build will also incorporate 2 specific jewels, Lethal Pride and Fertile Mind, to achieve the attributes necessary, so make sure you put them in the correct jewel sockets as shown here to maximize their benefit. Due to the number of notables Lethal Pride will be affecting, it'll provide insane value, and can be min-maxed later on down the line if you decide to invest in the character further. For our body armor and bow, we're going to be doing a little basic crafting, so I'm including the cost of essences as well. Now, crafting the body armor. For the chest piece, I'm really only looking for an open suffix, so I can benchcraft intelligence. And I'm flexible with the other random modifiers that may appear when crafting. In this example, I'll demonstrate one of the most basic crafting methods called Scour Alch. This entails using an Orb of Scouring to wipe the item clean, and then an Orb of Alchemy to make it rare, repeating this action until I find what I'm looking for. On our first attempt, we have decent mods, but no open suffix, so we're going to have to roll over this one. On our second attempt, we find exactly what we want, some good mods along with an open suffix. Now I could stop here, but I'll keep going just for fun to see if I can find something better. Once I rolled into this, I decided I was satisfied. It's got some life, armor and evasion, spell suppression, and that open suffix I'm looking for. Now, all that's left is to go to the crafting bench and benchcraft the intelligence that I need. And there we are. The body armor is done. Now let's craft the bow. Since we're playing Ice Shot, we want a bow that gives us a nice amount of cold damage, which is why we're using Essences of Hatred. When used on bows, Essences of Hatred will guarantee flat cold damage. I decided to go with Shrieking Essences to keep the crafting cost lower than using Deafening Essences. The bow base we are using is also important. It's a spine bow, which has a high base critical strike chance, and has fractured attack speed. The overall goal for this bow is to have 3 things: a high roll of flat cold damage, increased attack speed, and increased critical strike chance. Since the Essence and Fracture guarantee 2 out of the 3 mods on every roll, all we're looking for is either increased critical strike chance as a suffix, or an open suffix so we can benchcraft it ourselves. On our first attempt, we get exactly what we're looking for: cold damage, attack speed, and an open suffix to craft increased crit. I could complete the bow at this point, but I'm going to roll a couple more times just for science. On the second attempt, we get no crit and no open suffix, so we roll again. And the same occurs on the third roll. Now here on the fourth roll, our suffixes are full again, but this time we naturally rolled into increased crit chance, which is exactly the mod that we're looking for. And since we have an open prefix, we can still craft something beneficial, such as increased physical damage at the crafting bench. I opted to go for increased physical damage with chance to blind enemies on hit as a little extra defensive layer, but feel free to craft whatever you desire. And that's it, our bow is done. With whatever chaos you have left, head over to the crafting bench to put the finishing touches on any rare gear. Also, when buying your gear, try to buy rings that have open prefixes so you can craft minus mana cost on them, which makes mana sustain feel way better when you're spamming your abilities while mapping. The total cost for this project at current market prices was 155 chaos, leaving me with 45 chaos left over. We were able to save a lot of money by self-crafting our body armor and our bow, and by purchasing our amulet with the anoint already on it, as opposed to buying the golden oils and anointing it ourselves. Once geared, make sure to finalize the build by choosing utility flasks that complement the build. For our Ascendancy, we'll first take Gathering Winds to get Tailwind, which will speed up all of our actions. Next, we'll path through Far Shot. Far Shot synergizes well with the playstyle of the build, as we ideally try to kill as many enemies from max range as possible. Third, we'll take Endless Munitions, which is a huge power spike for the build and will drastically increase both your clear and single target damage. And finally, we'll take Focal Point for more single target damage and some conditional defense against packs of enemies that are led by a tanky rare. Our skill tree focuses on staying local on the ranger side of the tree and picking up as much life, damage, and spell suppression that we can. Notice that there's a high concentration of nodes within the range of the Lethal Pride Jewel, making it one of the most valuable items in the entire build. Now there is some flexibility on how you can allocate your tree in this area, so feel free to path differently to accommodate your specific gear set. Also, just a reminder, make sure your Fertile Mind and Lethal Pride are in the correct jewel sockets. Now let's discuss the build mechanics and playstyle. The first and most important mechanic is Vengeance Cascade, which will cause all of our attack projectiles to return to us 100% of the time, basically equating to permanent double damage. We should also discuss one of the major support skills in the build, and that involves the new support gem Mana Forged Arrows. We're using this to automatically trigger the Frenzy skill gem, giving us Frenzy Charge generation. Every 5 or 6 attacks will automatically shoot out some green arrows, which generate Frenzy Charges on hit. I've also linked this with Power Charge on crit, so that when those green arrows crit, we can generate power charges. By adding increased critical strike support, this will happen more often, giving us consistent uptime on both frenzy and power charges. Another case of automation occurs via our helmet, Asenath's Mark. This will trigger socketed spells when attacking with a bow, and it will be automating the cast of Creeping Frost. Now, when we attack with a bow, every other attack will include 3 projectiles of Creeping Frost, which applies a large chilling area on the ground under our targets. This is important because when linked with Bone Chill support, enemies hit by Creeping Frost or standing in the chilled areas will take increased cold damage. Now, let's talk about our Ballista Totems. Another great thing about Vengeance Cascade is that it also applies to projectile attacks from totems. The projectiles you fire will return to you, and the projectiles your totems fire will return to them. This allows you to have some creativity on exploiting different firing angles. The general playstyle is simple. Run around the map quickly, firing at all enemies in sight, and take advantage of your superior mobility. When encountering tough mobs, don't hesitate to place your Ballista Totems down for extra support. And in the most difficult situations, place your totems and activate your Vault Ice Shot for maximum damage. So there you have it, the Ice Shot Deadeye for under 1 Divine. The POB for this character will be linked in the description below. Enjoy the upcoming gameplay demonstration, and I will see you all in the next video.